I want a television debate. I want a television debate with Steve Harvey, D.L. Hughley, Ricky Smiley versus Dr. Umar Ifatunde. Is the Democratic Party the party of African people? Roland Martin can join in too. If they want Roland, they can bring Roland too. I want D.L. Hughley, Steve Harvey, and Ricky Smiley in a debate. Is the Democratic Party the party of the American African? Somebody get Steve Harvey on the phone. Somebody get D.L. Hughley on the phone. Somebody get Ricky Smiley. Dr. Umar wants to come on y'all show and debate you 3-on-1. And if y'all need Roland to help you out, Roland can come too. We can make it 4-on-1. Steve Harvey said that the Omega Psi Phi brothers run the radio. In all respect to my Omega Psi Phi brothers, the late great Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad was a member of Omega Psi Phi, so I'm not going to reduce the Omegas down to 3 men. I'm not going to do that. We're going to keep this about Steve, DL, and Ricky. Okay? Steve, DL, and Ricky. I want a debate. DL Hughley, will you debate me on your radio? Steve Harvey, will you debate me on your radio? Ricky Smiley, will you debate me? I'll debate all of you separately or all 3 of you together. Since y'all run black radio, and I run black consciousness, it's only right that we have a clash of kings. Y'all called the kings of comedy, right? The kings of comedy? Let's call it the kings of comedy versus King Kong consciousness. Let's call it the kings of comedy versus King Kong consciousness. Let's call it the kings of comedy versus King Kong consciousness. I'm ready right now. I don't need no prep time. I'm ready right now. Intellectual Ifatunde is ready right now. When we going to do this debate? When we going to do this debate? Steve, Ricky, DL, I want y'all on the stage in front of the people right now. I'm doing it for Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm doing it for Emmett Till. I'm doing it for Medgar Evers. I'm doing it for Huey P. Newton. I'm doing it for His Excellency, the Most Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. I'm doing it for the Honorable Frederick Douglass. I'm doing it for Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, Amir Lott, Dante, Sonia Massey, Freddie Gray. I'm doing it for them. Let's do the debate. Let's do the debate. If Omega Psi Phi, if my brothers of Omega Psi Phi, who I love and respect, want to host a debate, it could be an Omega Psi Phi debate. You can have the purple and gold. I don't care who hosts. I don't care where it's host. I want Steve, Ricky, and DL on the same stage. Keep the same energy, Africans. Keep the same energy. King Kong consciousness versus the kings of comedy. Will the real coons please stand up? King Kong consciousness versus the kings of comedy. Will the real coons please stand up? I said King Kong consciousness versus the kings of comedy. Let's settle this once and for all. Let's settle this once and for all, brother. Oh, yes. You can fool some of the people all the time, and all the people some of the time, but you cannot fool the King Kong consciousness none of the time. They bringing up Fannie Lou Hamer when the Democratic Party sabotaged Fannie Lou Hamer. Look at the hypocrisy. They don't think y'all know your history.
He mentioned so many people that I can zero in on, but I wanted to zero in on Fannie Lou Hamer because she's near and dear to my heart. They all are. But let me just mention Fannie Lou Hamer, who testified at a Democratic National Convention hearing in 1964.
Are there any questions from any member?
Own Mississippi, which is Montgomery County. If the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America?
All for the right to vote. People had to struggle. They had to go through a lot of pain for the right to vote. That you guys today, some of you anyway, are saying, my vote don't count. I don't need to get out there and vote. Let's continue to listen to what Miss Fannie Lou Hamer said.
The testimony before the Credentials Committee, the FDP had a lineup of very different people. They had Rita Schwerner, the widow of Mickey, who had been killed in Neshoba County. They had Martin Luther King. Everybody knew King.
The seating of the delegation from the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party has political and moral significance far beyond the borders of Mississippi or the halls of this convention.
But the highlight of the testimony was that of Fannie Lou Hamer. The sharecropper who had been evicted from her plantation had come to symbolize the Mississippi movement.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, it was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by policemen.
The president, Lyndon Johnson, he's not afraid of Martin Luther King's testimony. He's afraid of Fannie Lou Hamer's testimony. And so he decides that the country should not see her testify live.
Johnson is in the White House, and he convened an impromptu press conference.
We'll return to this scene in Atlantic City, but now we switch to the White House and NBC's Robert Goralski.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
On this day, 9 months ago,
He did it knowing that they would break away, thinking he might announce who his choice of vice president was going to be. Instead, he gets up there and he announces, get this, he announces that it's 9 months to the day since Governor Connolly, who was there, was shot along with President Kennedy. So he announced a 9-month anniversary. Everybody's scratching their heads.
thank you very much.
And then he leaves. By that time, Fannie Lou Hamer's testimony was over. However, it backfired on Johnson because it became a story that she had been taken off television and in the news that night, and for days afterwards, they replayed her testimony.
I was carried to the county jail and put in the booking room. They left some of the people in the booking room and began to place us in cells.
She had Mississippi in her bones. Martin Luther King or the SNCC field secretaries, they couldn't do what Fannie Lou Hamer did. They couldn't be a sharecropper and express what it meant, right? And that's what Fannie Lou Hamer did.
And it wasn't too long before 3 white men came to my cell. One of these men was State Highway Patrol. He said, we're going to make you wish you was dead.
If you're enjoying the video so far, kindly hit that like bell, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so as yet. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Rooseville, Mississippi. Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastman and Senator Stennis. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. we was met in Indianola by policemen, highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us in to take the literacy test at the time. After we had taken this test and started back to Roosevelt, we was held up by the city police and the state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day with driving a bus the wrong color. After we paid the fine among us, we continued on to Roosevelt, and Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles in the rural area where I had worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children that told me the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down, tried to register. After they told me, my husband came and said the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, Fannie Lou, do you know, did Pap tell you what I said? And I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I mean that if you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave. Said, then if you go down and withdraw, that you still might have to go because we're not ready for that in Mississippi. And I addressed him and told him that I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself. I had to leave that same night. On the 10th of September, 1962, 16 bullets was fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker for me. That same night, 2 girls were shot in Roosevelt, Mississippi. Also, Mr. Joe McDonald's house was shot in. In June the 9th, 1963, I had attended a voter registration workshop, was returning back to Mississippi. 10 of us was traveling by the Continental Trailway bus. When we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is Montgomery County, 4 of the people got off to use the washroom. And 2 of the people to use the restaurant. 2 of the people wanted to use the washroom. The 4 people that had gone in to use the restaurant was ordered out. During this time I was on the bus. But when I looked through the window and saw they had rushed out, I got off of the bus to see what had happened. And one of the ladies said it was a state highway patrolman and a chief of police ordered us out. I got back on the bus, and one of the persons who had used the washroom got back on the bus too. As soon as I was seated on the bus, I saw when they began to get the 5 people in a highway patrolman's car. I stepped off of the bus to see what was happening, and somebody screamed from the car that the fire workers was in and said, get that one there. And when I went to get in the car, when the man told me I was under arrest, he kicked me. I was carried to the county jail and put in the booking room. They left some of the people in the booking room and began to place us in cells. One of these men was we were going to check me. And they left my cell, and it wasn't too long before they came back. He said, "You were from Roosevelt, all right," and he used a curse word. And he said, "We're going to make you wish you was dead." I was carried out of that cell into another cell where they had 2 Negro prisoners. The state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro to take the blackjack. The first Negro prisoner ordered me, by orders from the state highway patrolman, for me to lay down on a bunk bed on my face. And I laid on my face. The first Negro began to beat. And I was beat by the first Negro until he was exhausted. I was holding my hands behind at that time on the left side because I suffered from polio when I was 6 years old. After the first Negro had beat until he was exhausted, the state highway patrolman ordered the second Negro to take the blackjack. The second Negro began to beat, and I began to work my feet. And the state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro had beat to sit on my feet, to keep me from working my feet. I began to scream, and one white man got up and began to beat me in my head and tell me to hush. One white man, my dress had worked up high. He walked over and pulled my dress. I pulled my dress down, and he pulled my dress back up. I was in jail when Matthew Evers was murdered. All of this is on account of we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America? Thank you.
Now, that's just one story. We hear people all the time saying their vote don't count. Oh, I'm not going to vote this year because I don't like that candidate. Oh, they don't serve my community. They don't do nothing for us. But guess what? If you keep withholding your vote and not vote, then your vote really don't count. It counts when you vote. Okay? It really counts when you vote. A lot of people have died and paved the way for you to have that privilege of voting. And you have the audacity to fix your mouth to say your vote don't count. So now, let's get back to Dr. Umar and this beef he has with these comedians.
All of us work, right? You work at a job. You work for a corporation. The corporation is the 21st century plantation. The NBA is a plantation. NFL is plantation. Hip-hop is plantation. Hollywood is plantation. Media is plantation. We still on the plantation. The corporation is the new plantation, my ninja. The corporation is the new plantation. And guess what the new slave chain is? Guess what the new shackle is? The new shackle is your paycheck. The new plantation is the corporation, and the new shackle is your paycheck. The new plantation is the corporation, and the new shackle is your paycheck. Talk black to me one time, Africans. I'm a runaway slave. Remember, we ran off the Republican Party plantation. We ran off the Republican Party plantation around 1930s. It's almost 2030. It's almost 2030. So if black people could give up the Republican Party plantation back in the 1930s, why can't we give up the Democratic Party plantation in the 2020s? Who with me? I want to lead a great exodus out of the Democratic Party. We will no longer be exploited. We will no longer be taken advantage. Cream of wheat, this is your land, but that is not a school. That is not a hospital. That is not a supermarket. That is not a bank. That is not a distribution network. That is not a system. That is not a solution. So when you niggas jump on here talking about this is our land, okay, the Native Americans said that too. That's not a program. That's a slogan. This is our land. That's not a solution. I'm a pretendian. That's not a solution. That's a slogan. We're looking for solutions here. Remember, this is a live for deep thinking Africans. Let me get back to Kabamala. She was clear that the future belongs to the immigrant. She was clear that East Indians are Americans too. She was also clear that women are going to be promoted on a whole nother level to the detriment of men, especially in the black community. And she reaffirmed her loyalty to the untouchables. She made it crystal clear that she supports the untouchables, just like Obama. If you go listen to Barack Obama's acceptance speech, go listen to Barack Obama's acceptance speech in 2008 and 2012. Go listen to Barack Obama's acceptance speeches. Sound just like Kamala. And they kept pushing middle class. They kept pushing middle. Well, for all y'all who want to be pretending, guess what? You can now be an East Indian now pretend. Hey, pretendians. Pretendians. Y'all could join up with the East Indians now because they're about to take over the black community. So all pretendians, you should go get you a dot. Go get you a dot right here. Pretendians, go get you a dot. Go get you a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. Go get you some curry chicken.
Who finds what he's saying very offensive. The West Indian and the Caribbean community have an Indian relative, usually. I'm saying usually now. They usually have Indian ancestry as well as black ancestry. There's a mingling. We love our curry because it was one of the things brought to these slave colonies in the West Indies and the Caribbean nations. Was one of the seasonings brought by the indentured servants from East India. I find what he's saying particularly offensive because my grandmother was an Indian woman who married a black man, and all the children refer themselves as black. My father married a black woman. Although my father was half Indian, half black, he never referred himself as Indian. He always said he was a black man. Because what is the general rule? If you got one speck of black blood in you, guess what? You're black. So really, I don't understand Dr. Umar in this particular video that he did. That he's trying to downgrade the Indian part of Kamala Harris, making all kinds of disparaging remarks because she's got Indian ancestry. She's claiming her black roots. What's wrong with that? Now he's beginning to sound like Trump's. If she does not claim her black roots, it's a problem. And when she claims her Indian roots, it's a problem. So, damn if you do, damn if you don't. But what I want to say to children of mixed heritage, don't be ashamed of who you are. You are not asked to be born into this world. Your parents brought you into this world with the help of God. And don't you let anybody make you feel ashamed that you're not black enough, you're not Indian enough, you're not whatever. Don't be ashamed. Be proud of who you are. And I can go down the list of all my friends from the Caribbean as well as the West Indian countries. They've got some Indian in them somewhere. That's how it is in those countries. So I find it very offensive that he is belittling, well, appearing to belittle East Indians in particular because that's Kamala Harris's roots. Her grandparents came from East India on her mother's side. So it's very offensive. I don't even think he knows how offensive he really is. By the same token, you wouldn't call a black person in America out of their name. You don't call East Indians out of their names either, because we all have family ties that is not only on the white side, it's with the Indian side too. And not only on the black side, for some of us, but the Indian side as well. A lot of people in America have their ties to Caucasians. A lot of people in the West Indies and the Caribbean have their ties, culturally I'm speaking of, to East Indians. So it's very offensive. I don't think he realized that East Indians were enslaved also as indentured servants. So I can understand him talking bad about or against Kamala Harris, but to put a whole nationality, throw the whole nationality under the bus is very wrong. So when he starts talking about a dot in the middle of your forehead and start talking about people's religion, what they believe in, start talking about what they eat, like curry, a lot of curry, that is attacking the culture of a particular individual, in this case, Kamala Harris. So he's attacking her culture. And it's like a reverse discrimination, because if anyone talks badly about a black person in this country, then it's a big to-do. It's a big hoo-ha. Not only in this country, but black people all over the world. You can't say nothing bad about a black person, period. It's a big deal. So why do the same to our Indian brothers and sisters? We have to learn to respect each other. It's one thing attacking a candidate, but when you attack the candidate's ethnicity or culture, then that's a whole new level. That's a different playing field, because then you're attacking a whole group of people instead of that one individual. So let's learn to be respectful of each other. Let's continue with Dr. Umar.
And join in with the Kamala movement. Pretendians, you can now be East Indians. Pretendians, you can now be East Indians. They're going to be running the show. Pretendians, you can now be East Indians. And the reason Kamala kept talking about middle class, that's a code word to white America that we're not talking to black people. That's a code word to white America. Listen to me, I told y'all this 8 years ago. I told y'all this 16 years ago. When they say middle class, that means not poor. We're not talking to black people coming out of prison. We're not talking to homeless blacks. We're not talking to single black mothers with children. When you hear the word middle class, that is a cold word that we're not talking to black people. That's why they had them dance for you. They had them sing for you. They had Al Sharpton and D.L. Hughley and Kerry Washington and Michelle and Barack. Symbols for Negroes, substance for everybody else. Brothers and sisters, I'm not going to keep you too much longer.
So Dr. Umar made it clear he wasn't going to endorse Kamala Harris and he wasn't going to endorse Donald Trump. But he didn't say who he was going to endorse or vote for. He's a very outspoken guy, and I'm surprised he didn't let us know who he was going to support. On that note, guys, I'm over and out. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Don't forget to hit the like bell and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so as yet. Support the channel. Help to make it grow. See you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.